Hey there, it's Gary Parrish. It's Monday, March 7th, 2022. Welcome back to the CBS Sports Eye on College Basketball podcast, where we sometimes discuss camel fighting, dodo birds, and leaky black. Matt Norlander is here with me. And before the power conference tournaments get started, we're going to be doing short episodes on the top six. That's the ACC tournament, Big 10, Big 12, Big East, Pac-12, SEC. So look for them wherever you look for stuff. This episode is on the ACC tournament, which starts Tuesday inside Barclays Center in Brooklyn. Duke is the outright ACC champion and thus the number one seed in this tournament. That means the Blue Devils get a bye until Thursday's quarterfinal. Same goes for the other three top four seeds. That's 2 seed Notre Dame, 3 seed North Carolina, 4 seed Miami. Dead leg. First question for you. Is there any reason to pick anybody other than Duke to win the ACC tournament?
We can probably dig up a few reasons here, but Duke sets up as, I think, the strongest favorite, although Ken Palm actually runs these. So as we do this, I'll look at this in real time and see if his log 5 has Duke as the most likely power conference tournament champion. To me, Duke feels like the most likely power 5, Big 6, how we want to say it, including the Big East conference tournament champion, even including the American there. So it's possible. You got Carolina on the other side of the bracket. UNC's coming off that win against Cameron. So we'll see. We'll see what we get there. In fact, I might have to make a prediction on this championship game before we get out of this podcast. But I think Duke is a pretty sturdy, heavy favorite in this spot. I will note, if Duke wins its quarterfinal and it meets Miami in the semis, Miami does also have a win at Cameron this season. So not unthinkable that Duke could get knocked off again. And we wait and see how the Blue Devils will respond after that, just stunning loss against North Carolina on its home floor. Are we going to see a Duke team as laser focused as Mike Krzyzewski's going to want it to be? I think that's possible, but I would lean heavily right now heading into this week that Duke is going to, at minimum, make a pretty strong charge to the title game.
Yeah, Duke is obviously the favorite. The only team in the ACC in the top 25 at Ken Palm. You're not going to find that type of situation in the other power conferences. But it should be noted, you mentioned Miami won at Cameron. Duke has lost to 4 of these teams this season, and 3 of the 4 losses were at home. They lost to Miami, Florida State, Virginia, and North Carolina. So it's not like the Blue Devils can't lose or don't lose to inferior teams. I still think that, I'll pick them to win the ACC tournament, but we've watched them lose to inferior ACC teams enough to make this a situation where, I wouldn't write it down in permanent marker. Right now, Jerry Palm has got Duke projected as a 2 seed. Do you think the Blue Devils can get to a 1 seed?
Don't think so. Here's what has to happen. Bear in mind, we are recording this on Monday afternoon. This is important because if Gonzaga were to lose to San Francisco, Gonzaga falling off the 1 line becomes a real possibility, in my opinion. Just a possibility. But Baylor's in a strong spot where I don't know if Baylor can lose a 1 seed, to be honest. So that's a spot that won't be taken. Arizona could lose it, the 1 seed, if it loses in the Pac-12, if it were to lose the first game. We got to at least allow for these possibilities. It's the postseason. Anything can happen. And then Auburn's not safe. So you probably have some shiftiness available on the 1 line, but Duke would have to get over Kansas and Kentucky. They'd have to jump those teams. And keep in mind, this is important. I think this sometimes gets lost once we get to the postseason. 90 to 95%, sometimes 98% of a team's resume has already been established at this point. You get 1, 2, maybe 3 games. If you make a miraculous run in one of these big tournaments, where like if you're the worst seed in the ACC, you got to play 5 games. So you got a little more potential on the back end if you're horrendous. But the point I'm making here is, yeah, there's some room for some movement, but a lot of these teams are kind of where they should be. You can move one up 1 line, maybe down 1 line, but that's usually pretty much it. Unless, again, you're outside the bubble, you're a bubble team, and then you go off and you peel 3 quad 1 wins. That's going to make an impact. So I say that as a reminder that Duke on the 2 line, getting to the 1, it's not absolutely impossible, but it 100% needs to win the ACC tournament, and then it needs a ton of help that I just don't think everything's going to break its way. I think Duke will wind up as a 2, and it will be in the East once we get to Selection Sunday. That's my guess as of right now.
Yeah, I think they're probably locked into a 2 or a 3. If I remember correctly, Jerry Palm, after the loss to North Carolina, dropped Duke down to a 3 seed. Then Wisconsin loses to Nebraska, and I think he moved Duke back ahead of Wisconsin. And so Duke is a 2 seed in the latest projected bracket. 5-1 in quadrant 1. That's good. 5-3 in quadrant 2. So 10-4 in the first 2 quarters with a quadrant 3 loss to Virginia also on the resume. Their quarterfinal game is going to be against, so their first game is going to be against either Syracuse or Florida State. So that doesn't help you winning that one. It doesn't enhance your resume in any meaningful way. So at most this week, Duke can get 2 more quadrant 1 wins to get up to 7. And I just don't think that's going to be enough to get them, as one of the top 4 resumes in the sport. Gonzaga, would you agree with this? Locked in as a 1?
I only don't agree with it if Gonzaga were to lose to San Francisco and then like Kansas won the Big 12 tournament over Baylor, allowing for maybe 2 1s from the Big 12 to happen. And then Kentucky wins the SEC tournament. Like I could maybe see a case where Gonzaga falls off the 1 line. Again, it has to lose to San Francisco. People are going to be listening to this after that happens. So I just want to be clear. I think Gonzaga's going to beat USF, but for the purposes of when we're recording this, otherwise, yeah, Gonzaga into the WCC title game, it's locked on the 1 line.
So Gonzaga probably a 1.
Yeah.
Arizona at this point, probably a 1.
Do we think so? We did the Pac-12 preview. Me and Boone did. I think so. Parrish, because I think they're going to do well in that. But if you really look at, how their numbers stack up to the rest of the field, and if they were to take a bad loss, I think it's still out there. Just a slight, they have to lose their first game. Arizona has played 8 quad 4 opponents. And so some of its overall numbers might get dragged a little bit if it were to take a bad loss. It's 5-3 in quad 1. Arizona's 8-3, Baylor's 11-4, Kentucky is 8. Kansas is 10-5, Duke is 5-1. So just keep that in mind. I'm mostly with you, but I want to at least key in the audience on Arizona should be, but I don't know if it's super, super safe.
I guess I'd put it this way. I don't know that Duke can pass Gonzaga or Arizona, even with winning the ACC tournament. I think it's difficult to do. Then you've got Kentucky and Auburn in the SEC tournament. If one of them wins that, then that team that wins is going to be a number 1 seed. Mm-hmm. Kansas, Baylor in the Big 12 tournament. That's where you could have 2 number 1s, but the winner of that, if it's Kansas or Baylor, is going to be a 1 seed. So there just might ultimately, and I guess this is the point I'm trying to make, there just might not be a spot for Duke to be a 1 seed in this NCAA tournament. But as always, we'll see. At this point, I think win the ACC tournament, 2 seed. Anything short of that, a 2, but possibly slipping down to a 3 seed.
Yeah, that's the floor.
That's the floor. The ACC right now, according to Jerry Palm, projects as a 4-bid league. Duke is a 2 seed. Notre Dame is a 10. Miami is a 10. North Carolina as an 11. And right now, Wake Forest is the first team out of Palm's bracket. I think Duke, Notre Dame, Miami are all good to go. Obviously, Duke is. Notre Dame and Miami, I think so as well. North Carolina probably good to go no matter what happens in the ACC tournament. So let's focus on Wake Forest. Deacons, they got work to do. They have the ACC Coach of the Year, Steve Forbes, ACC Player of the Year, Alondas Williams. So they have 2 major award winners, but just 1 quadrant 1 win. What does Wake Forest need to do to secure an at-large bid to the NCAA tournament?
For sure, it can't lose. Now, you said Palm's got him out, right?
Literally first team out of the field right now.
As we record this, okay. I don't. You know why that's the. You know why I think that's the reason. I haven't asked Jerry about this, but there's one reason why I think that's the case right now. What do you think it is?
Why are they the first team out?
Yeah. Aside from their whole, win-loss record, why do you think they're out?
I mean, somebody bumped them out yesterday on Sunday with a win.
That, and if you now again, I'm not saying this is the decisive thing, but I think Palm's thinking might apply here, trying to project what the committee would be doing. And I don't blame Forbes for this at all. Non-conference strength of schedule is 351 out of 358. The point being, Wake Forest has a good record. When you stack it up against other teams, the committee, which still takes into account some, what you did versus how, your level of difficulty of other bubble teams, I think that's probably why he's got Wake out. I would have Wake in the field right now, but if you look at the ACC tournament bracket overall, it's going to have a path to do that. I think it's going to be. I think it will be able to be okay. You just can't lose to Pitt or Boston College. Okay, that's going to be the second round game on Wednesday. Pitt or Boston College will play Wake Forest. Don't lose that, by the way. Steve Forbes has been rewarded with a new contract extension. Steve Forbes is the ACC Coach of the Year. Alondis Williams is the Player of the Year in the conference. So you beat Pitt or Boston College, which should happen. Then you go up against a Miami team that is safely in the field, a Miami team that has swept Wake Forest this season. You win there, it's not even going to be a debate. Wake Forest, if it loses against Miami, I do think it's going to be in a group of about 3 teams, maybe 4 teams that are really going to be sitting pretty tightly. One of those teams could be Rutgers. We'll get to that on the Big Ten pod, of course. But win 2, you're in for sure. Win 1, you still might have enough. Palm has them out. I know this is a fairly disputed team right now. I think this team, it's one of those classic cases of like, I look at them and I'm like, yeah, that does, even though the ACC has been down, GP, looks like an NCAA tournament team to me right now. But if you want to stack up the resume and say they're just out or they're just in, I get that as well. I would have them in the field as of now. I would definitely have them out of the field if for some reason they were to lose against Pitt or BC. I don't think that's going to happen. I think they'll win. They'll play Miami, and then that'll be a pretty intriguing game. By the way, I should be boots on the ground literally at that game on Thursday afternoon at Barclays Center. I'm planning to be there for Duke versus whoever it plays on the nooner, and then that'll be a 2:30 tip on Thursday in Brooklyn.
You are right that the committee has used strength of schedule and more specifically non-conference strength of schedule against teams in the past. And so Wake is susceptible to that this season. I hate that. I don't care what
I know you hate it, but I know you hate it, but you have to gauge at least a little bit on how steep your climb has been. I'm not saying it should be a deciding factor, Parrish, and the committee does it. I don't hate it. I know you don't like it, and it doesn't. What it doesn't do that we agree on, your strength of schedule does not tell you how good you are. I get it, but you have to slope against other teams. So I don't have an issue with saying this team is 23-8, this team is 23-8, but this team in the non-conference had a schedule that ranked 98 out of 358. This one had a schedule that ranked 351. If you want to use that to help parse your argument, I personally don't have a beef with it. That's all.
I hate it. Let me tell you the things I hate in this world. Number 1, black olives. Number 2, hotel rooms really far away from an elevator.
Without a bathroom door.
By the way, somebody tweeted me this morning, said they stayed in that same hotel you were in. There is a bathroom door. It's just like a sliding shut thing.
I did not have a bathroom door.
Okay. He called you a bathroom door denier.
Yeah, that's because that's what I want to be. I told you there was a little like a thing on the ground. I think there was once a door there. I didn't have a door.
Hate black olives. I hate hotel rooms really far from an elevator. And I hate airports without a Delta Sky Club. And I hate strength of schedule because it doesn't mean what people think it means. Like if you rank 5th in the country in 3-point field goal percentage, it means you make a higher percentage of your 3-point attempts than all but 4 teams in the country. It means exactly what it suggests it means. If you have the number 1 strength of schedule in the country, it does not necessarily mean you played the toughest schedule in America. That is a data point that is misleading. Beyond that, I don't care what somebody's schedule strength is. I care about what they did. What did you actually do? So let's look at what you did in quadrant 1. Let's look at what you did in quadrant 2. Let's look at what you've actually done this season. I don't care where your schedule ranks.
But Parrish, that is based off of the same kind of evaluations that determine strength of schedule to begin with. When you are going quadrant 1, quadrant 2, those teams are sorted in a specific order based off of their accomplishments and what their opponents did and their opponents' opponents. So it's similar to strength of schedule.
I don't care if you realize you can manipulate a strength of schedule incredibly by just playing a whole bunch of teams ranked between 150 and 200 as opposed to teams ranked between 250 and 300.
We are completely on the same page with that.
Okay, well, you're going to beat all those teams anyway. You'll beat them all anyway. So why do I care what your strength of schedule is?
Unless you're Rutgers.
Unless you're Rutgers. Unless you're Rutgers and you run into Lafayette. Now you got problems. But why do I care if you beat a bunch of quad 4 teams instead of a bunch of quad 3 teams? They're all trash anyway. You just beat a bunch of trash teams no matter what. But if you're playing all quad 3 games instead of quad 4 games, well, then you're going to have a better strength of schedule. I just think it's a stupid thing to use to gauge what a team's actually accomplished. Let's look at who did they play, where did they get their big wins, what kind of horrific losses did they take, and then let's put that up against everybody else in the country. If you do that with Wake, it's pretty good. 5-7 in the first two quadrants, and they do have a quadrant 3 loss on the resume as well. If you want to have them out of the bracket right now, like I'm not disputing that they should be. I'm just saying I don't care at all about their non-league strength of schedule. In defense of Forbes, by the way, on that, I think he thought his team was going to be good. I don't think he thought he was competing for an NCAA tournament bid this season.
I agree. I don't think it should be held against him, but I think it might.
No. Well, then we're in agreement. Then I don't think it should be held against him either. But we both acknowledge that it might be.
Yeah.
They won 6 games last season in his first year at Wake Forest. They were 6-16, 23-8 right now. It's like a historically great turnaround. So when you're in a league like the ACC and you don't think, if you're being honest with yourself, in year 2, probably don't have an NCAA tournament team on paper, you'd be a fool to schedule aggressively in the non-league. You need to get wins somewhere, and he was just trying to get wins somewhere. And so that's the best explanation for the non-league strength of schedule. But whatever. As it pertains to this week, obviously they got to beat either Pitt or Boston College in game 1. You lose that one, you go try to win the NIT. Then they would play Miami on Thursday. You don't think they need to win that? I think they might need to win that game too.
Again, this is a classic. Not everything happens in a vacuum kind of deal. Because a major storyline of the bracket as it's going to break out here is Wake and Miami are arguably the 2 resurgent teams in the league this season. Miami, after being irrelevant for 4 years, comes back and has a really nice season, and it's safely in. And now, if Wake Forest can dodge getting beat by Miami 3 times, that would certainly help its case. I'm not ready to say that a Wake Forest loss to Miami means it shouldn't be in the field. I understand it would be a pretty close call, but I don't know. I'd have them in right now. Best wins are at Virginia. Wake Forest right now, best wins at Virginia Tech, at Virginia, home to North Carolina, home to Notre Dame. That's probably it. Yeah, you know what? I keep going back and forth on this team. I guess they probably need to. There's not the worst loss on the schedule, I guess, is at Louisville. There's no guess about it. That's the worst one. If Wake had just been able to not lose non-competitively at Syracuse at the end of January, or not take an L 2 weeks ago at Clemson, win either of those games, I think it's a different situation. Yeah, sometimes it can come down to 1 loss, 1 win, that result being different. If this was a 24-7 team instead of being 23-8 right now, it might be in a little bit of a better spot. But this shouldn't be surprising. Big picture, GP. We knew that by the time we got to the ACC tournament, there would be a situation where there were teams on the bubble. It's not the case with Miami. I don't believe it's the case with Notre Dame, and it's definitely not the case with North Carolina as far as I'm concerned. But Wake Forest and Virginia Tech are the 2 teams that enter into this bracket being on the bubble. Virginia Tech's going to absolutely need to win at least 2. It's going to get the winner of Clemson, NC State. The Virginia Tech game will happen on Wednesday, and then Virginia Tech, if it wins, will play number 2 Notre Dame. The Hokies will need to win that game minimally to at least enter into a discussion there. Anything short of that, and I don't think Va Tech has a chance.
Yeah, so Virginia Tech is the other ACC team on the bubble. They closed the regular season with a loss to Clemson. That's yucky. So they're now 1-5 in quadrant 1, 4-5 in quadrant 2, or 5-10 in the first 2 quadrants with 2 quadrant 3 losses. I honestly don't know how that puts them as close to the bubble as some people have them, as close to the bracket as some people have them. I know they've got relatively strong computer numbers. Could be a computer tricker situation going on here. I mean, did you just hear what I said? 5-10, 1 quadrant 1 win, 5-10 in the first 2, 5 games under 500 in the first 2 quadrants with 2 quadrant 3 losses. Like that, to me, they got a lot of work to do.
The predictives are good, and I think that's what's helping them here. Not that should be the difference. Always up
computer
to discuss
trickers.
That. I know. BPI 21, KenPom 29, Sagarin 36. That's why right now Virginia Tech, in the eyes of many, is a 5, 6, 7 spots outside the cut line as we speak right now. It absolutely needs to win at least 2. Maybe 3 is even necessary, but 2 even just has to get you in the conversation. And I don't know if they'll do it. They're going to have to beat the 2 seed in Notre Dame to get there.
We got a computer tricker situation that has developed
We might.
in the ACC. So got to beat Clemson, NC State in the second round. That goes without saying. I think got to beat Notre Dame in the quarters. And then you'd probably have a semifinal game at that point with North Carolina. As far as I'm concerned, they got to win that one too. You put me on the committee. I'm not putting Virginia Tech on the field unless they're playing in the title game of the ACC tournament.
Fair. I'll be interested to see if Virginia Tech beats Notre Dame by the time we get to Friday morning, where it would be projected at that point by a number of different people, and what other results have happened around conference tournaments that might impact them negatively or positively.
All right, Deadleg, let's pick a title game. Who you got playing for the ACC Tournament Championship? Who you got winning it?
Hold on. Can I at least get a bid thief here? Virginia is the only one. Would you agree? Bid thief has no shot in it at large, needs to win it all to get in the field. Virginia, is that the only one that you could conceivably see happening in this tournament?
Yeah. I mean, and the only reason is because, Tony Bennett is terrific and he can win games he's not supposed to win. I do not think we'll be in a bid steal situation here, but yeah, if anybody's going to do it, Virginia's the best candidate, clearly.
I would agree, and it would not surprise me. It really wouldn't surprise me if we looked up on Saturday and Virginia was playing in the title game. I'm not saying it's likely. You got to pick one bid thief. Virginia's on the 6th line. That would be the pick there. As for the title, I will go Duke against North Carolina. How dangerous is UNC right now? Tar Heels coming off that huge win. Can they keep it up? Will we get a rematch here? If so, how will Duke look in that kind of spot? How angry will it be if indeed it can get there? So I will go not all the way chalk. UNC is the 3. It's not the 2. I will go Carolina to get past Notre Dame. I kind of feel like it might be a little chalky there. And then I will go Duke. I'll go Duke over UNC. And I think that whatever that line is, I will take Duke to cover that line. I think that they are going to have a big time performance. And I'll say Paolo Banchero is the ACC tournament most outstanding player, and Duke getting that. And then to circle back to the top of the convo, Duke wins the ACC tournament. It's still not enough. It gets a number 2 seed.
I'm with you. Duke against North Carolina in the title game. That'd be a lot of fun. Will they shake hands or will they not shake hands?
I know, right?
And then, I think Duke wins it. But I just thought of the new most hilarious thing that could happen. Before the regular season finale, we wondered how hilarious it would be if North Carolina actually went to Duke and won the game. Didn't think they'd do it, but we thought, well, wouldn't that be really funny? And then it happened. How about this for the next hilarious thing that could happen? Duke goes to the title game in the NCAA tournament. I mean, ACC tournament, loses to North Carolina.
Okay.
Duke goes to the Final Four.
Stop.
Plays North Carolina again, loses again. What if the last 3 losses of Coach K's career were to North Carolina, North Carolina, and North Carolina? Wouldn't that be something?
That's for all of eternity if that actually happens, okay? That's not happening. All of eternity. That you're right though. That is taking it to its utmost extreme. But you and I agree. Duke is going to win and be on the 2 line. One more quick thing from me as we get out of here. Another just storyline connected to this on a team that we don't think will do much in the tournament. Whenever Louisville loses, how long will it take for that school to hire its next coach? Will it be Kenny Payne or will it be someone that's currently coaching as a head coach in a power conference or elsewhere? Who knows? But we would think that Louisville will be out before we get to the weekend, and then the race will be on for, the search has already been ongoing, but once the season ends truly, then that'll just be the job opening tide in this conference to keep an eye on. And I would think it wouldn't take them more than 7 to 10 days at most to get it done. They want to get it done quickly.
Well, it comes down to who they're hiring. Like, if they're hiring Kenny Payne, I would assume you can get that done in less than a week, Yeah. Honestly, if you're hiring Kenny Payne, it should already be done. But what if they're hiring Kevin Willard?
Right.
That's going to take a minute because Seton Hall is going to be in the NCAA tournament. Sure. So how long will it take Louisville to get a coach? Depends on who they're hiring. If they're hiring somebody who's unemployed or Kenny Payne, then that could get done quickly. If they're hiring a sitting head coach, you got to assume that's somebody who's going to be in the NCAA tournament. And if it's somebody in the NCAA tournament, well, then you're just playing a waiting game, right?
I think so. I mean, it might take longer than the 7 to 10 day time frame that I suggested. But if it's like a Kenny Payne or someone that's not in the tournament, then it shouldn't take too long. But keep an eye for that. Again, I will be on hand at Barclays Center. I'll be going back and forth between Big East and Barclays, and there's some intrigue with the ACC, but if you're kind of looking at that field, being like, I get you. It's not over. I wouldn't say that it's a top 3 conference tournament of the 6 big ones we're previewing here, but you never know. And it's got the Duke factor. I just want to see if Duke comes out and is able to be a dominant, ticked off team that's really going to try and send a statement, or will they just be a little bit vulnerable? Keep an eye on that as they get going in Brooklyn in just a couple of days.
Shouts to Devin Downey. Shouts to Chester, South Carolina. Shouts to Andrew Bridges, 6'5" legend. Averaged 0.6 points in 7 games for Baylor, 1994-95 season. Shouts to Larnell. Thank you guys for listening once again to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast, middle of the absolute dumbest pandemic of my lifetime. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe anywhere you subscribe to podcasts, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We need 5 stars, both places. Nice review at Apple. More of us than there are of them. There's more of us than there are of them. Smash that like button before you get out of here. If you're not subscribed to the YouTube channel, do that, and we'll talk to you again real soon. Till then, take care.